Welcome, everyone, to our very first More to Explore episode of the new year. And if you're joining us today, hop in the comments and let us know when you joined the Explore community. And if you remember anything special from that first year that really got you hooked. Personally, I started in 2019. And of course, that was Holly's year of winning Fat Bear Week champion. So maybe you remember the bear that won your first year. And so 2019, that's what, 7 years now? So, and I know that many of our longtime viewers have been around here much, much longer than that. Or even better, if it's your first week joining us to the community, welcome. We have over 200 live cams with amazing partners, and there's always something more to explore. And we begin with our penguin family. So to get to it, my name is Brian Bird. I am your senior technical producer pushing all the buttons behind the scenes. And to help us learn more about the wildlife we see on the cams, I'm joined by my co-host and Explore.org's resident naturalist, Mike Fitz. Mike, when was your first year with Explore?
Well, long story short, I guess I could say 2012. That was the year the bear cams launched,
Wow.
and I actually wasn't working at Katmai this summer. I had sort of like experiment where I went to Yellowstone for a year, and then I went back to Katmai the following year. But yeah, 2012 is when I first knew about Explore.org because of the bear cams in Katmai, and then 2013 is when I started to do programs when I was still a park ranger on Explore.org. And then 2018 was the first year that I started working directly for Explore.org. So I'm glad to be part of the community and glad to have these penguins. It's part of our community as well. We're going to talk a lot about them today. And I'm glad to be back for another year more to explore. We are the world's largest live nature cam network here at Explore.org. If you have comments, questions for us, as Brian mentioned, let us know in the comments. We'll be looking for those during the broadcast today. I already see that Bear Mom on YouTube said 3 years ago. So I wonder, Brian, if there's anybody watching who's got us beat. If anybody could go back to like the original, like the Raptor resource cams. I
Right.
think those were some of the first ones on Explore.org.
That or
Even
the polar bear cams, I believe, may have been the first.
right, yeah. So if anybody has us beat, let us know. But these are some of the newest cams that we're looking at right now. This is a live look in at magellanic penguins in Argentina. And this is one of our newest collections of webcams on explore.org. So they take us to the southern Atlantic Ocean. This is a place of high marine diversity and a region we've never explored on explore.org before. This is also in a place that was formerly protected as a provincial park only recently. And if there are two chicks in this nest, we'll talk a little bit more about them after when we get to our egg watch segment. But right now, I think we're looking at the female parent, and then the chicks are behind her, kind of tucked up in the shade. And I want to introduce these webcams to everybody and the area. So, not knowing anything about this part of the world, really, I wanted to introduce the webcams of Patagonia Azul and the wildlife we see on them, and needed someone to help tell us about the stories of these remarkable islands. So I spoke with Ignacio Gutierrez, who is the conservation coordinator at Patagonia Azul for Rewilding Argentina. They are our webcam partner, and here is our conversation. Nacho, so great to speak with you, and thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us.
Hi, Mike. Thank you very much for this introduction. It's a pleasure for me to be able to speak with you today and hopefully speak a bit of Patagonia Azul, of the seabirds that people are going to be able to see at explore.org. And yeah, I'm excited to show you a little bit about our work here.
And I want to learn a little bit more about the landscape and the seascape of that region of South America. I think when most people in the United States hear the word Patagonia, we tend to envision like craggy, glaciated mountains of the southern Andes. What is the coastal landscape like of this Patagonia region that you're a part in, and the eastern part?
Well, that's a great question. So, as you say, when somebody thinks about Patagonia in Argentina as well, we think about the mountains, the Andes region, the glaciers, and Patagonia is such a vast landscape, and it's mostly all steppe, so it's kind of a shrubby desert. And when you start to travel eastern and you get to the Atlantic coast, it gets to paradise. It really is. Coastal Patagonia is one of the most productive areas of the Southwest Atlantic. So many of the marine mammals, especially sea lions, elephant seals, fur seals, and seabirds that nest and breed here find their home in Patagonia Sul. This is one of the most productive regions. It's beautiful landscape. It has really uneven coastline with all these bays and inlets and points and different islands. And this area where we work at, Patagonia Sul specifically, is a paradise in that sense because we have many islands, more than 60 islands and little islets in our coastline, and that's where seabirds especially find home here, protection from other predators, even human activity. So that's why it's such an important place here in Atlantic Patagonia.
And can you expand on that a little bit? Why is the Patagonia Azul region a hot spot for biodiversity? Yeah. I was reading about the number of marine species that you have, the number of nesting seabirds. It seems like a very rich area.
Yeah, as you say, it's very rich. And one of the reasons why that happens is because of the geography of the coastline and because of the uneven terrain of the seabed here as well. So this whole area is influenced by two currents, the Malvinas current, which is a very cold current that comes from the south, and the Brazil current that comes from north. So out there in the far out ocean, this influence works and helps to create lots of productivity, like primary productivity. So out there, far out, we have lots of fisheries, lots of whales feeding. And here, closer to the coast, we have this uneven terrain, as I was telling you. It's full of islands. There is a difference on the depth of the seabed here in the coast. So all that helps a lot to the currents and the seawater itself to move in different ways that it would if everything would be flat and plain, and that helps to get all this upwelling, so bringing the colder water up to the surface, and that moves all the sediment in the seabed, and that helps to create plankton when that all that colder and very productive, rich with minerals water comes up to the sea surface where the sunlight can help produce. And that's why there's so much food for the seabed, the seabirds here, and especially for the marine mammals as well. We can see from the cameras the penguins, the giant petrels, the cormorants, but this is a hotspot for marine mammals as well, for sea lions, fur seals. We can see elephant seals here as well, and many cetacean species. Right now, in January is the moment in Patagonia Sul to see humpback whales, and so yeah, it's very productive, and it's mostly because of that, right? Islands that offer protection for seabirds and for pinnipeds, and there's lots of food. So they wouldn't be here if there weren't food. They wouldn't be here just because of the islands, right? They need their food close to where they're nesting or they're breeding for that to be a good place for them.
Well, that sounds amazing. And it's the Patagonia Azul is a new provincial park established in 2025. So it's really only a few months old. What role did your organization, Rewilding Argentina, play in its establishment and protection?
Yeah. So in Patagonia Sul, in this region, they used that it still exists, but we have like a previous park that it's called PINCPA, which is the Interjurisdictional Marine Coastal Patagonia Austral Park, which is a different name, different category of protection that was created 10 years ago and was protecting mostly the islands and the waters that surround those islands, but very close to the islands, right? So what we have been doing with the province and with local communities here is to try to expand and create a more powerful park around these areas and these waters, because we believe that it's not only protecting the islands, but we need to protect all the water surrounding them, because we know that the seabirds and the sea lions and all the wildlife that happens here, they don't feed just by the coastline, right? They made very, very far out trips to get the food for their chicks and for their couples, their mates. So what we did is work with the province a lot to try to explain and show why is it so important to get more protection, better protection, better categories of protection. So now we have a park that is 250 thousand hectares of marine protection, and that's category 2 IUCN. So there's no industrial fishing allowed here, and that's something that will persist forever. So the province of Chubut made a great statement with that, because it's the first marine park of this kind here, where industrial fishing is not allowed any way. So we're very happy with that, and we took a role for sure, but it's a decision of the province at the end of the day. It's something that was very supported by the local community. So we're very happy of having this park created this year very soon, and we believe we have still lots more to do, because 250,000 hectares is not enough for the marine wildlife. We need much more protection. Keep working for that.
And how important is local government and community support for the stability and success of the park?
Yeah, it's crucial, because at the end of the day, if the province and the local communities are not the ones who are willing to protect what they have and to protect the areas that surround their coast, there's nothing that can be done, really. We're here working with industrial fishing, with many interests and different activities that are willing to take what's out there in the ocean, to take the product. And if we don't have support from the local government to determine specifically where some activities can be done and where certainly cannot be done, to help wildlife to persist and to recover, there's nothing that can be done. We can gather all the information that we can. We can have all these facts about how is it important to protect and how is it important to conserve all these species. But if local communities don't ask for that, and if local governments don't act towards that goals, there's really nothing that can be done without them.
Yeah, and I think we've learned some pretty hard lessons about that in the United States and elsewhere in the world. So I think a different model is maybe what we need, a model similar to what you're envisioning. That's what we need in the 21st century. I want to talk a little bit too about the animals that we see on our webcams. Our webcams with Rewilding Argentina focus currently on nesting seabirds. There's magellanic penguins, imperial cormorants, and the southern giant petrel. Can you explain the seasonal patterns of these birds? Right now we see them nesting. How long will their nesting seasons last, and what are they doing afterwards?
Sure thing. Yeah. So for all three species, their season is quite the same. So they will all show up in the colonies in spring. Some of them, like the magellanic penguin, do it in the first weeks of September. The giant petrels do it a little bit later. And the imperial cormorants do it like between late September, October. But it's mostly in spring when they show up and they have all their courtship activities, and they meet there in September. They go back from the to the islands for breeding, and then they lay the eggs. Of course, they turn to take care of the egg until they hatch. They take turns to go for food, and then one member of the couple will look for the nest, incubate the eggs, and then they will do that the same after the chicks hatch. And it's very interesting because penguins will leave very far from this area after the breeding season. So they will come from as far as southern Brazil. They do huge migrations following mostly anchovies, but it's not the case in the cormorants, right? The cormorants stay around this area. They move a lot more than in the breeding season, but not that far out. So they will keep feeding in this region mostly. But the penguins will go very, very far looking for food all the way up to southern Brazil. And the petrels will do the same. The petrels will always have activity of petrels in the colony all year long, but they will go very, very, very far, up to 200 nautical miles, looking for food, mostly squid, and they will all gather in October for the breeding season. But yeah, they have very different strategies on feeding after the breeding season has happened. So yeah, they do very different things, but they all show up here for spring, summer to take care of their duties and to breed and bring more babies to the species and to Patagonia Zoo.
And in general, what challenges do those seabirds experience in that area that it might affect the stability of their populations or their reproductive success?
Well, so I think that the most dangerous thing for them is the lack of food, maybe in some places. So climate change is changing where seabirds are the ones that tell it to us, right? Because it's very easy for us to monitor them and to see how they do. But that's what happened to all the species at the end of the day. What happens to seabirds will happen to whales, will happen to fish, will happen to sharks, and will happen at the end of the day to us because we also rely on that resource. So I think that the main threat for them is the changes on their food distribution, and that's mainly because of climate change, but also because our own fishing activities, right? Argentina is a country where bottom troll fisheries work all over the place. Like that's the main fishing art in our country, and we do bottom troll fishing everywhere. So that's the main threat. Even when it's not happening within the park or very close to the park, it happens in places where these seabirds go to feed. You know, we can see that when we monitor them and we follow them with satellite tags. So that's the main threat for them. There are other threats. These islands have experienced presence of invasive species in their areas, so they change a lot the habitat in these islands, and that is not good for the seabirds at the moment of breeding. But I would say that for sure, industrial fishing and specifically bottom troll fisheries are the main threat for these birds.
Beyond raising awareness for the land and seascapes of Patagonia Azul, what work remains to secure the ecological integrity of this region, as well as like the livelihoods of the people who live there?
Well, the first thing that I strongly believe that we need is bigger and better MPAs. You know, marine protected areas are a tool that have been showing all over the world that they work very well when we strictly define the limits where we can fish or we cannot. But it's not only declaring them, but also being very, very strict for that rules to be respected. You know, there are some very good cases all over the world where in areas where big MPAs, because you need them to be big in order for the wildlife and specifically the fish banks and the very productive fisheries to recover. That at the end of the day will help not only the seabirds and not only the wildlife, but also the industrial fishing companies, because they will fish just by the side of that MPA and they will get more fish than they used to when they were fishing all over the now existing marine protected area. So I believe that we need that. We need bigger and more strict marine protected areas. And it's something that we should all be asking for to our governments, our politicians. And I believe that these kind of tools, like the live streaming cameras that we can see on explore.org, raise that awareness, because we will never ask for something that we don't know is affecting to anyone. And when we see these penguins, we see these petrels, and we can learn where do they go to feed, what struggles they find in their way when they're trying to feed their babies. That makes us think of things that we might have not be thinking before. So yeah, I think we need like the tool that I think is the most effective for us right now is marine protected areas. But in the end of the day, what we need to do is raise awareness and ask for what we need as society.
Yeah, very well said. It sounds like you have a lot of duties associated with your job with Rewilding Argentina. I'm wondering if there's one or two things that you enjoy most about your work.
Well, yeah, I think that I'm very privileged, to be able to leave what we are now being able to live with these camps to experience and see from very close wildlife intimacy. I end up sometimes being in places and moments which it feels like a dream. It feels like I'm not supposed to be here, seeing this, because penguins will raise their chicks in places where humans usually would never get. But now we are fortunate enough to be able to see that, because we want to learn about them. We want to know what are the needs, how we can protect them. To me, that's one of the things that I love the most. Just being able to be out there in the ocean, looking for whales, looking for sharks, and looking after them. Trying to see what are their needs and how we humans can help to help them. And in the end of the day, they help us, because they are telling us what problems the ocean is experiencing, and the problems that the ocean is experiencing is the problems that we will experience sooner than later. So I think that's something nice. I have a really joyful job. I really enjoy what I do every day when I'm out there in the ocean, but I really enjoy the final goal. It has such an important purpose to me to be able to be doing this, to try to put my little sand grain for trying to make a better world in that sense.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, and that's one of the joys of my job, is to be able to talk with people like yourself who have meaningful work, and they're working towards a goal to make the planet a more habitable place for humans and all other species. My final question is related to the one I just asked you. If you have any advice for like a young person or a student who might be interested in a career protecting wildlife or in habitat conservation, what advice might you give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind to me is something that I've read someday when I started with this, that is that conservation and nature and our planet needs from everyone. We need people from all the backgrounds, from all that, with all the skill sets. So it's not that a career or what you like doing or you're good at will define your work. We don't only need biologists. We don't only need vets. We don't only need oceanographers. We need everyone. So I think that a piece of advice that I would give to someone young that are willing to work in conservation is knock every door, take every opportunity, and try to see what are you good at, what you enjoy doing. That's something very important. What you do, you have to do it because you enjoy it. This shouldn't be a sacrifice. I don't do it because I want to sacrifice myself or my life for conservation. I do it because I enjoy every single piece of what I do. And when we do what we do with joy, we will do it so much better. So yeah, try to find what you like, what you're good at, and offer it. Offer it to a local NGO, offer it to someone you see that is doing a great job, something you admire, and knock every door, touch every opportunity. And at the end of the day, we need from everyone, and everywhere in the world needs conservation work. So it's not that you have to come just to Patagonia Sul to help the ocean, or just to Africa to help elephants, but there's things that are needed to be done everywhere. So try starting local. If you have a dream, go for it. And yeah, I think this is a very, very beautiful world, and we need to live more connected with it.
Well, thank you for that message, Nacho, and thanks for taking the time out of your day again to explain a little bit more about your work, Rewilding Argentina, and the wildlife that we see at Patagonia Azul.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for the opportunity, for the channel, and yeah, I hope everybody's enjoying the cameras here and that they enjoy the interview and hopefully learn a bit more about this unbelievably beautiful region, so important for us, and the wildlife that lives in it.
We'd like to thank Nacho once again for taking the time out of his day to talk with us. Really great conversation and really some amazing cameras that we're able to partner with Rewilding Argentina on to get a perspective into a part of the world that I've never been to, but it looks absolutely amazing. And hopefully, Brian, I think in the future, at the beginning of our program, I should back up a little bit. We asked, hey, what was the first year some of our webcam watchers started watching? Hopefully, Brian, in the future, we'll get somebody 10 years from now that said, I started watching because I was looking at the penguin chicks in Argentina in late 2025, and I've been with Explore ever since. So I hope that's the case for somebody out there. We did get a couple of additional comments about when people first started to watch the webcams. LB1460 wrote in and said, hi, Brian and Mike. I think I joined around 2020. And LB, you're not the only person who started watching the webcams that year. Everyone remembers why. A lot of people started doing stuff online then. But yeah, we're glad that you stuck around because this is a really wonderful nature watching experience. Jen Lat38 said, I started watching in 2025 thanks to a video from a mod on the bears. Yeah, and our bear cams reel a lot of people in very quickly, and then they start branching out to different cameras. And then finally, Jess is Not Normal wrote in and said, I only started watching during last year's bear season. Well, that's fine. I love, Brian, when we have new people joining us because they're always bringing like this fresh perspective. And sometimes they ask like the obvious questions that maybe I haven't explained information about in a long time. So I always welcome those chances to speak with new parts of our audience.
Definitely. And every time somebody new, I get to introduce them to Explore, they're like, okay, what do I watch now? And I'm like, really? You got to give it a whole year. Because like maybe somebody, comes in for bear cams, like you mentioned, branches off to different cams, but there's always a season for something, whether, we have the black bears and then the polar bears and then eagles, all the birds. And now we're having Nest Watch in January, and as we keep adding more and more cameras, there's always something to see. So it's definitely a year-long adventure.
For sure. And our cameras in Patagonia Azul with Rewilding Argentina, I found them to be fun to watch, very interesting, especially the penguins. And that reminds me, Brian, it's time to update everyone on the bird nests that we are watching on explore.org.
Here we go. January's first egg watch.
So this is our January 12, 2026 edition of Egg Watch. We anticipate the arrival of eggs in nests on our bald eagle cams in February. Until then, we are going to be focusing on the nests and the seabird colonies in Patagonia Azul Provincial Park. So again, the webcam partner for these cameras is Rewilding Argentina. We'll start with the penguins, the magellanic penguins on Isla Tova. They breed in colonies, they nest in burrows or under vegetation. The eggs in the nest that we were watching, they hatched on, let's see here, where am I? Oh, there they are. Oh, yeah. Excuse me, November 24 and November 25. Now, I thought that they would sort of like wander away from their nest site because what I read, and you may remember if you watched this program in December, I mentioned that I had read that Magellanic penguin chicks leave the nest to form a creche with other chicks when they're about 3 weeks of age. So these penguins are far beyond 3 weeks of age, and they're still hanging out at their nest site. So they didn't read the same information that I did. They're still in the nest, but there's other similarly sized penguin chicks roaming about. In fact, there have been times recently when 3 chicks are visible on this cam even though only 2 chicks hatched from this nest. So I think we're going to start to see more movement among the young birds in this colony over the next few weeks and days. And it may become increasingly difficult to keep track of who is who. So check it out if you can right now. They may leave the nest area permanently first week of February. Then we also have our southern giant petrels. They breed primarily in the South Atlantic and Indian Oceans. Incubation in this species lasts around 60 days or so, but the chicks began hatching in this colony around Christmas time. I think that's when some of our sharp-eyed webcam viewers were able to see the first chicks, and we're starting to see them right now. Again, they're quite large now, and they're going to get larger rapidly. They fledge though in about 104 to 132 days, according to the information that I've read, with the male birds fledging later on average than the females. So we got a good bit of time to observe birds in the southern giant petrel colony. And then finally, the imperial cormorants, their eggs began hatching around December 6th or December 7th. I think that's when the webcam viewers first started to see some fluff of new chicks underneath the parents. But some of these chicks now are very big, almost the size of adults. They fledge in about 2 months. So we have another month or so with these chicks on this nest. So those are the 3 bird colonies that we're following right now. Next month, I think we're going to add some additional birds coming up with some of the early birds in North America. But that's it for now and our current edition of Egg Watch.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And as well as so many birds nests coming your way, we also have more upcoming events, and these times are in Pacific time. But some other live events that you should definitely check out. Every Tuesday, we have the Africam show, which is like a live virtual safari with their partner Africam. And then on Thursdays, Africam hosts another show of Wild Moments where they get to review all of the best clips from the week. And then we don't have a new program. We kind of took a lot of, excuse me, we took your feedback from what you wanted to see more of, and it seemed like the play-by-play style of live chats were very popular. So we're going to try to do some more this year. So we have the first one lined up with Utopia Village. So that'll be super fun. And then our next episode of Moto Explore will be on January 26th. And Mike, these are the upcoming events, but what are some of the other cams that are in season right now that people can check out?
Well, I'd encourage everyone to go watch gray seals on Seal Island in Maine, and also our manatee cams in Florida. So gray seals, well adapted to cold water, and it's very cold in Maine this year, or cold for historic averages, I should say. But the seals, they deal with it quite well. They come to this island to give birth and mate. So you'll see different types of activity, like you'll see newborn seal pups, you'll see them suckling, you'll see newly weaned pups that are just letting their bodies mature a little bit before they head into the ocean. And then you'll also see some breeding males competing for access to females on the island. So this is one of those short seasonal cameras that we have, starting in December. The activity begins to peter out in February. So check that out right now if you can. And then farther south in North America, in Florida, manatee cams, prime time for them right now. Wonderful to see them gathering around the warm-water springs, freshwater springs in different parts of Florida, like Blue Spring State Park, for instance, where this footage here, I think, was taken. So some amazing scenes in some warmer waters from where I live, farther south in Florida. So check out those cameras right now.
Awesome. And just really quick, one way that you can help us here at explore.org right here, fresh from the beginning of the year, is if you haven't already, download our mobile app. And one thing we're looking for right now is to get more reviews and ratings in the App Store. So whether that's the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, go hop on there, give us a quick rating, leave us a review. And if you have any feedback of anything you'd like to see improvements, always feel free to email us at feedback@explore.org.
And as we conclude our program today, we want to take a moment to remember Grayson, who was the dominant male wolf of the ambassador pack at the International Wolf Center in Ely, Minnesota. He died unexpectedly on Friday. Grayson was an Arctic wolf born at a captive facility in Canada in 2016. He arrived at the International Wolf Center that May. He was known and loved for his confidence and leadership with the ambassador pack at the Wolf Center. There have been many tributes posted in the comments for Grayson on the International Wolf Center's webcam. So if you're looking at those comment boards, I'm sure you have seen those. I'd just like to share a few. Marine 1951 wrote, Grayson, you were larger than life. You were a larger than life presence with your pack. Jules H said, it was Grayson and his brother Axel that captivated me and took me to a place beyond compare. Sophie Dog said, I am crushed to hear the news of Grayson. I visited the center in 2024, and it was awesome to see the pack firsthand. My heart goes out to the staff and caregivers. May you find peace remembering this magnificent wolf. Then Michelle from Switzerland said, Dear Grayson, I will miss you. We will miss you. And all the people who care for you and your pack mates will miss you. Finally, Valerie D said, he taught me what a wolf leader should look like. I didn't know Grayson like the stalwart International Wolf Center webcam watchers, but in moments where we experience loss and when we grieve for the death of an animal who we've come to know, the webcam communities of Explore.org offer a place where we can help each other process and cope with the situation. The wolf caretaker staff at the International Wolf Center also continue to work while grieving for Grayson. I know many people are thinking of them as well. I think they would be honored if we can honor the memory of Grayson by working to make the world a better place where people can better coexist with wild wolves now and in the future. So that's a goal for mine in my lifetime. And thanks for everyone for joining us today. And we're going to end with a photo of Grayson. Have a great day. And until we talk to you again, enjoy explore.org.